Today's lesson is on how to solve multi-step inequalities. It will combine what we learned from 6.1 and 6.2 on basic inequalities. The directions for this activity are to follow along with the video examples by copying down the examples on the worksheet. The practice problems need to be completed and will be checked before you finish. This worksheet will be turned in on Monday. Okay, so under the goal section, okay, let's go over the directions. All right, there are 3 steps to help you solve inequalities. Step 1, start by solving for the variable the same way you would solve an equation. Keep the sign unless you encounter step 2. And what step 2 is, you need to reverse the sign of the inequality only if you multiply or divide it by a negative number. You keep the sign the same if you multiply or divide it by a positive number, and you also keep the sign the same if you add or subtract from both sides. And then step 3 is to graph your solution on a number line. Alright, so let's start with example 1. Okay, step 1 is to solve it as if it were an equation. So, if it were an equation, we would add 5 to both sides and have 2x is less than or equal to 28. Okay, now we divide both sides by 2 and have x is less than or equal to 14. Okay, we do not need to switch the sign here because we divided by a positive number. Okay, and then let's create a graph. Okay, put a couple numbers below, a couple above. Alright, it's less than or equals, so we're going to have a closed dot. And the numbers less than 14 are to the left. For example 2, alright, we're going to start by undoing as if it were an equation. So let's subtract 5. We have negative 6y is less than or equal to negative 21. Alright, now to get y by itself, we're going to have to divide both sides by negative 6. By doing that, we'll have y. We're going to have to figure out what our sign is. We divided by a negative number, so the sign is going to have to switch places. And then 2 negatives make a positive, so it'll be 21 and 6. Okay, that can be reduced. Make that a mixed number. It'd be y is less than or equal to 3. It'd be 3 and 3 6, which is 3 and 1/2. Alright, you know how to graph this? So on the homework, you will be able to graph this correctly. Okay, for example 3, alright, this negative 1/4 in front is going to make the problem a little tricky. There's 2 options, 2 ways I can get rid of that. Okay, one option is to use a distributive property. That'll work. It might be slightly messy. An easier way, well, thing that we can do is, let me write it out. Okay, we can multiply both sides by negative 4. And what that'll do is, because negative 4 times negative 1/4, if you multiply the reciprocal, it's going to cancel and become 1. Okay, so let's multiply both sides by negative 4. Okay, I'm left with p minus 12. On the other side, I'm going to have 8. Okay, we need to figure out the sign. We multiplied by a negative number, so the sign's going to have to flip. Alright, so now let's add 12 to both sides. I have p is less than 20. Alright, let's check a number that's close and see if it works. Something less than 20, that'll be, let's pick about 18. So if we picked 18, it would be, so my check is going to be down here, negative 1/4 times 18 minus 12. I'm seeing, is that greater than negative 2? Alright, so negative 1/4 times 18 minus 12 is 6. Is that greater than negative 2? Okay, that would be negative 6/4, which is negative 3.5. Oh, sorry, 6/4 is negative 1.5. Is that greater than negative 2? These are negative, so negative 1.5 is closer to 0, which means it is larger. This is correct. Okay, so our answer here is right. You could graph that if we had to. Over here, example 4. All right, first thing we can do is let's get x all by itself on one side, and we need the constant terms all by itself on the other side. All right, so I prefer positive numbers, so let's subtract 2x from both sides. We're going to have 4x minus 7 is greater than 17. All right, next, we need to get the constants to the other side. So let's add 7, left with 4x is greater than 24. Okay, we did not switch the sign because, well, that was just addition. We don't switch the sign if we add. Okay, now let's divide by a positive 4. Okay, so x, we have a 6 over here. Keep the sign because we did not divide by a negative. Okay, x is greater than 6. Okay, let's graph this. So 6, open circle, the numbers greater than 6 are to the right. All right, what I want you to do here is try these by yourself. Okay, so solve each inequality and then graph the solution. You need to do both. These problems will be checked near the end of the class and turned in. This will be turned in on Monday. Okay? So work these out. The answers will be checked on the Smartboard file. They'll be there if you want to check to see if you did it right.